The title of this video is not clickbait. I will be demonstrating a link between Alan Wake and Shadow of the Colossus, two games that could not be more different from each other, but nonetheless share one common concept, a theological and philosophical term known as logos. Dedicated fans of my channel will have heard me reference the logos numerous times over the last year or two. It is an archetype of storytelling, one that has been referenced many times in numerous works of fantasy. With this video, I will not only demonstrate how the logos has influenced many notable video games, but I will also show you how to notice the logos in other works of fiction. When you understand archetypal or religious concepts like the logos, you can begin to understand the intentions of a story's author. Doing this will allow you to understand the most ambiguous of fictional worlds, including Shadow of the Colossus or Alan Wake. Needless to say, there are spoilers ahead. Before I go into the history of the logos, I would like to cite the instance which motivated me to make this video in the first place. I finished going through Alan Wake for the first time yesterday, absolutely wonderful game. At the end of the game's primary storyline, Alan becomes trapped in a supernatural dimension known as the Dark Place. Some people still have trouble understanding what the Dark Place is to this day, but like I said about the logos, it becomes easier to understand once you learn about fundamental storytelling ideas. In my opinion, the Dark Place is like the human unconscious given physical form. This makes sense once you think about the things that you keep in your unconscious mind. Things like dreams, memories, and ideas. Once Alan Wake enters the Dark Place, what do we see happen? Alan's memories take physical form. The character Thomas Zane mentions in the DLC episode titled The Signal that Alan is trapped in his own nightmares. One thing that happens in the Dark Place, which I would like to give primary focus to, are the physical manifestation of words. When Alan is in the Dark Place, he encounters words, literal tangible words that appear out of nowhere. When Alan shines his flashlight on these words, they take physical form. So, for example, if he shines his flashlight on the word blast, a blast will appear. To most people, this just seems like a cool, spooky game mechanic, but it actually has a deep religious history to it. In many religious traditions, the use of language not only has the ability to construct systems of knowledge, but also has the ability to construct the physical world. For instance, the Old Testament God from Judeo-Christian tradition used words to construct the physical world at the beginning of time, i.e., let there be light, let there be land and water, let there be man and woman, etc. With this example, and the words in Alan Wake, we see the aforementioned concept of logos in full effect. The word is taking physical form. Now, before I link Alan Wake to Shadow of the Colossus, I need to give a little bit of background to the history of the logos concept and how certain religious traditions adopted it. Specifically, Christianity and alchemy. Before logos became a supernatural force used by gods, it was a simple philosophical concept. The earliest use of the term logos was by Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher born in the 6th century BC. When Heraclitus used the term, he used it somewhat ambiguously. The Greek use of the word logos could be translated into English as word, plan, principle, and formula, just to name a few. To most historians, it seems that Heraclitus' use of the word referred to what we would call discourse, the act of people talking in a constructive manner. Heraclitus hinted that the term logos had a more metaphysical aspect to it, that rational discourse is reflected in the way the universe constructed itself. But nothing is for certain. What is certain is that the Stoic philosophers from the 3rd century BC began to attribute supernatural properties to the logos. One Stoic philosopher from the 2nd century BC, Marcus Aurelius, referred to the logos as seminal reason, or logos spermatikos. The root word of both seminal and spermatikos obviously referred to a male's seed, which is needed in order to birth a baby. Keep the word seed in mind. We will use it again in a moment. To put it simply, the Stoics were the first people to link language and its ability to order and create to the universe's ability to generate life. The Logos became more than rational discourse. It was the generating, ordering principle of the cosmos. While the primary focus of this video are Alan Wake and Shadow of the Colossus, the Logos as the generative principle of life is seen in other games. If any of you have ever played the game Journey, we see the use of the Logos most clearly in the game's creation myth. The light emits from the mountain, which is the game's metaphor for God, and the light takes the form of the game's fictional language. As we clearly see, the language then births the contents of the universe. We also see a subtle reference to Logos in the Talos principle, a game which I consider to be the most underrated of all time. In this game, the god known as Elohim tells us about the Logos, but calls it by a different name.
These worlds, and we within them, are made of words. Hidden words, invisible to you, yet part of all things.
There is more to the Logos concept beyond the mere transmutation of a word into physical form. We see this most clearly in Christianity and alchemy. After 1 AD, when the Common Era began, the concept of Logos began to be adopted heavily into both Judaism and Christianity, although it existed prior to that without a name. We saw this with the example of the Old Testament God saying, "Let there be light." Once God mixed light with darkness, he extracted the contents of the universe from it. In Judeo-Christian tradition, this took the form of the 7-day creation myth. In alchemical tradition, the 4 classical elements emerged from the mixture of light and darkness: earth, wind, fire, and water. The mixture of light and darkness in all of creation is not only inherent to Western religion, but also Eastern. We see this emphasized most clearly with the yin-yang symbol, for example. A person, place, or thing can only take form once it has the proper mixture of light and darkness to it. Think of it like a plant. If the word is like a seed, then the darkness is like the soil. Once the seed/word has been planted in the soil/darkness, it needs water/light in order for it to come to life. In the case of Alan Wake, we see this alchemical recipe acted out most clearly. The words Alan Wake comes across are the seeds planted in the dark place. Alan Wake supplies the light via his flashlight, and the words take form. With all of this being said, we still have to apply this to Shadow of the Colossus. If any of you watched my most recent video on Shadow of the Colossus, where I also talked about the Logos, the connection to Alan Wake should be clear. However, I will establish the connection for the newcomers. The protagonist of Shadow of the Colossus, Wander, uses a weapon known as the Ancient Sword, a weapon that has been forged with light. I theorized in that video that the sword is a metaphor for the Christian Logos. I cited several Bible verses in that video, linking Logos to a sword. I also pointed out that there are various other references to Judeo-Christian tradition in the game, such as the Shrine of Worship, reflecting the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, and how Dorman's name is a reference to King Nimrod from the Bible. Dorman is Nimrod spelled backwards. Most importantly, however, I pointed out how the mixture of light and darkness brought forward tangible form. At the end of Shadow of the Colossus, Lord Emon drops the ancient sword into a pool of water. Wander's shadow falls into the pool of water and mixes with the light in the sword. With the mixture of light and dark, the sword extracted a form. That, of course, was Wander reincarnated as a baby. So, let us recap. When Alan Wake is in the dark place, he comes across various words. Alan shines light on the words, and they take tangible form. The mixture of light and darkness with the word is like the mixture of soil and water with the seed. In Shadow of the Colossus, Wander's dark half mixes with the light of the ancient sword, and the sword extracts baby Wander. The only difference, really, between the two examples is that in Alan Wake, the Logos takes the form of a word, and in Shadow of the Colossus, it takes the form of a sword. But even then, it isn't really a difference because the Logos is both the word and the sword. As I said before with Heraclitus giving several meanings to the word Logos, human beings give it several forms, but they all share the same purpose. I'll conclude with one last form that has been ascribed to the Logos: water. It is no accident that the ancient sword had to mix with Wander's shadow in a pool of water. It is no accident that Jesus Christ, who is viewed as the physical incarnation of the Logos, had water pour from his side when he was stabbed with a lance after his crucifixion. If you would like to learn more about that, I suggest you go watch the aforementioned video I did on Shadow of the Colossus. I'll link to it in the description box below and modify the link so you can skip straight to the part about the water. There are many other fundamental archetypal concepts in fiction that go beyond the Logos. Once you understand them, you can uncover a hidden language used by authors that penetrates many works of fiction, much like the Logos penetrates all living things. I hope to present more of these patterns and concepts in future videos. For now, I would like to ask you, would you like to see more of these types of videos? If so, please hit the like button on this video. That would really help me out. Also, please consider going over to my Subscribe Star campaign. It's a lot like Patreon, but without all the unethical business practices. Depending on how much you donate, you will gain certain rewards, including early access to my videos, audio versions of my videos, my gamer tags, and more. Finally, if you want to learn more about the profoundly crafted worlds of Shadow of the Colossus, Journey, or the Talos Principle, please click on any of the videos you see on screen now. Until next time, just remember, stay yellow.